A Houston NBA star pulled in $245 million over his career, stacked mansions and supercars, and then let lifestyle expenses and personal obligations drain nearly half of everything he earned. Meanwhile, another player took home $110 million from the game, said no to the flashy stuff, and quietly started buying up Houston real estate until his portfolio was worth nearly double what basketball ever paid him. And those two, they're just appetizers. We're about to break down the 8 wealthiest Black NBA players with Houston ties. And when we get to number 1, that wealth story is going to completely redefine what you think athlete money looks like. Let's start at number 8 with a cautionary tale. Dwight Howard is the poster child for what goes wrong when massive earnings meet uncontrolled spending. He wasn't born in Houston, but his 3 seasons with the Rockets from 2013 to 2016 landed right in the middle of his peak earning window. That sweet spot between his Orlando dominance and the slow fade that followed. Over his entire career, Howard collected more than $245 million in NBA salary alone. He was the first overall pick in 2004, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 5 All-NBA selections, a finals appearance with Orlando, and at his absolute peak, one of the most physically imposing centers the league had ever seen. Adidas built him a signature shoe line. Major brands lined up to write him checks. That Superman dunk contest persona turned him into a global commodity worth tens of millions of dollars in endorsement revenue on top of his contracts. But the money hemorrhaged almost as fast as it came in. Costly child support situations across multiple households reportedly consumed millions of dollars every year. Legal battles piled up. The Houston mansion, the fleet of exotic cars that lost value the moment they left the dealership, the entourage that expected to eat for free, and charitable commitments that looked amazing on camera but demanded constant funding. At his highest point, Howard's net worth probably reached between $100 million and $140 million. Today, that number is murkier because obligations and burn rate turned his finances into a moving target. During his Rockets years, Howard lived at full volume. Mansion events showed up on gossip sites. Luxury vehicles were all over social media. Nightlife appearances happened every week. He was the textbook example of endorsement-era athlete, spending, operating under the assumption that the checks would never dry up. Except they always do. Once locker room issues and declining play tanked his market value, the brand deals disappeared while his expenses stayed exactly where they were. After taxes carved out roughly 40%, agents took their cut, and lifestyle spending compounded year after year. Howard likely retained less than half of what he earned, still rich by any normal standard, but catastrophically short of where $245 million should have landed him. So what about a kid from Houston's Fifth Ward who earned nearly the same amount, but did it by mastering exactly one thing and keeping his name out of the headlines? Number 7. DeAndre Jordan grew up on Houston's South Side, came out of one of the city's toughest neighborhoods, played his high school ball locally, earned McDonald's All-American honors, and then heard his name called in the second round of the 2008 draft. Statistically, second-round picks wash out within 3 years. Jordan lasted more than 15 seasons and banked $240 million by cracking a code most players never figure out. He became the absolute best in the world at one narrow, essential skill: rim protection. He could not stretch the floor, create his own shot, or orchestrate an offense. But he could erase shots at the rim and rip down rebounds at an elite level. That was enough. NBA front offices will pay staggering money for dominant rim protection, and Jordan stayed healthy long enough to stack multiple max-level deals. That 4-year, $88 million contract with Dallas in 2015 was the deal that launched his wealth into a different atmosphere. A Nike partnership and a few smaller brand deals provided steady, unspectacular income that added up over a decade and a half. He funneled money into Texas and California real estate, purchased properties that appreciated quietly, and sidestepped the financial traps that take many athletes down. No tabloid drama, no failed business ventures, no Instagram validation campaigns. His estimated net worth today sits between $100 million and $120 million, which for a player drafted 35th overall might be one of the most impressive financial outcomes in league history. He proved that franchise player status is not a requirement for generational wealth. Be irreplaceable at something specific. Lock in long-term deals before your body quits, and refuse to create problems that cost you contracts. Most players cannot execute that formula. Jordan nailed every step. Now let's flip this completely. Our next entry earned a fraction of that money, bounced around 10 different rosters, and still became a Houston basketball icon through sheer cultural impact. Gerald Green is Houston through and through. Raised in the city, he dominated at the high school level, earned McDonald's All-American honors, and won the All-American dunk contest. He was drafted in 2005, and he spent 15 years moving through NBA rosters on pure athleticism and the ability to catch fire from three-point range on any given night. 2 slam dunk contest victories prove that the ability to defy physics has market value. He suited up for roughly 10 different franchises before eventually circling back to Houston, where the fans never forgot him. Green's total career earnings land somewhere around $20 to $25 million over 15 years, which works out to roughly $1.5 million annually before taxes. That's not superstar money. He was never a max guy, never made an all-star team, and never the centerpiece of anyone's rebuild. He was a reliable rotation player who could explode for 20 points one night and disappear for the next 3. His income came from contracts, modest international stints, and local basketball camps where Houston kids paid to learn from a hometown hero. Current estimates put his net worth around $15 to $20 million, which for a journeyman actually signals solid financial discipline. He didn't torch his earnings on depreciating luxury items the way peers who earned twice as much did. Green traded financial flash for community credibility and built a post-career identity rooted in youth mentorship and local engagement. His story represents the financial reality for about 80% of NBA players. You make decent money if your body holds up long enough, but true generational wealth requires either superstar-level contracts or an almost obsessive commitment to financial discipline. Green managed just fine. He just didn't stack enough to climb higher on this list. But wait until you meet the number 2 overall pick, who actually studied finance, took $118 million in career earnings, and turned it into something considerably larger, through investments no one ever discusses. Number 5. Emeka Okafor was born in Houston, starred at the high school level locally, dominated at UConn, and went 2nd overall in the 2004 draft, the same class as Dwight Howard. That detail matters because their financial paths diverged wildly despite nearly identical draft positions. Okafor captured Rookie of the Year, looked destined to anchor defensive schemes, and collect max deals for a decade. Then injuries shortened his prime and stopped the earnings train before it reached full speed. His career salary totals approximately $118 million across a rookie contract, a major Charlotte extension, and a substantial New Orleans deal before his body called it quits. But here is what separates Okafor from everyone below him on this countdown. He developed a reputation as one of the most financially educated players in the league. Conservative spending habits, careful portfolio construction, meetings with wealth advisors while teammates were still figuring out how to spend their first checks. He skipped the endorsement chase that rarely pays off for big men who do not throw down highlight dunks, and instead focused on maximizing salary income and allocating it into appreciating assets. His current net worth reportedly sits between $35 million and $45 million, which exceeds what his career earnings alone would suggest because he did not surrender half to taxes and immediately incinerate the rest on things that lose value overnight. Okafor's financial approach is boring by design and bulletproof by result. Sometimes being disciplined with $118 million outperforms being reckless with $245 million. Now let's meet a 1990s legend who earned just $31 million but somehow constructed a $50 million fortune through relentless post-career hustle. Number 4. Clyde Drexler was born right here in Houston, and he starred at the University of Houston alongside Hakeem as part of Phi Slama Jama. He dominated the NBA for over a decade, then came back home to capture that 1995 championship with the Rockets. 10-time All-Star, Dream Team Olympian, Hall of Famer, Houston basketball royalty in every sense. But his financial story exposes how brutally the pre-max contract era punished even the most elite players. Drexler's total career earnings came to roughly $31 million. For a top 5 shooting guard who performed at an all-star level for more than 10 years, that number is almost insulting by modern standards. Today's bench players earn that in 3 seasons. The difference was pure timing. Drexler played before massive television deals inflated salaries, before $40 million annual contracts existed, before shoe deals paid more than the sport itself. But he refused to let era economics define his ceiling. He assembled a net worth estimated between $40 and $50 million by outworking most athletes after the final buzzer. Broadcasting roles generated consistent 6-figure annual income. A coaching position at the University of Houston added revenue. Speaking engagements capitalized on his Hall of Fame prestige. Business investments in Houston real estate and local ventures produced passive returns that compounded quietly over decades. Drexler embodies what athletes should do, but almost never execute: convert legacy status into durable, long-term revenue streams that outlast the playing career. And while he stretched $31 million into $50 million through post-retirement brilliance, our next entry made $420 million and invested it like someone who actually understood compound interest. Number 3. Chris Paul was born in North Carolina, but spent 2 critical seasons with the Rockets from 2017 to 2019, nearly dragging Houston to the finals alongside Harden before injuries ended that dream. His wealth story transcends any single city. He has assembled one of the most intelligently diversified financial portfolios any professional athlete has ever built. His career salary is north of $420 million. He has 12 All-Star selections, 11 All-NBA nods, and 9 All-Defensive honors. He served as president of the Players Union, negotiating billion-dollar media rights agreements while simultaneously depositing $50 million in annual paychecks. Longevity at max contract levels created compounding wealth that most players never get close to. But the real genius is diversification that would impress institutional investors. Jordan Brand pays him millions annually. State Farm turned him into a household name and compensated accordingly. He runs a production company, participates in venture capital targeting emerging startups, holds real estate across Texas and California that generates passive rental income, and he maintains minority ownership positions in sports ventures that appreciate as franchise valuations skyrocket. His net worth comfortably exceeds $180 million and potentially pushes toward $200 million when you factor in equity stakes that never hit public filings. While peers who earned similar money are scrambling to do podcast sponsorships just to stay liquid, CP3 deployed $420 million like a seasoned portfolio manager. But what about Houston's MVP, who stacked $350 million in salary, locked down a $200 million shoe contract, and built a brand empire potentially worth $600 million when you add it all together? Number 2. James Harden arrived in Houston in 2012 as a traded 6th man, and he evolved into an MVP, scoring champion, and global brand powerhouse. The city wrapped its arms around him completely: the nightlife, the fashion scene, the culture. Harden repaid that embrace by making Houston the epicenter of basketball for the better part of a decade. His NBA salary exceeds $350 million and counting, with peak annual earnings surpassing $47 million. But the true wealth engine was his 2015 Adidas partnership. It was a 13-year, $200 million deal, one of the largest footwear deals ever finalized. His signature line sold worldwide, established him as a legitimate competitor to Nike and Jordan, and created royalty streams that will pay long after he stops playing. He also got in early on body armor before Coca-Cola's $8 billion acquisition, a move that likely generated eight-figure returns when his equity cashed out. Restaurant ventures in Houston and LA, minority ownership, stakes in sports properties, and a real estate portfolio spanning 2 states worth tens of millions round out the empire. Harden grasped something most athletes miss entirely. Ownership generates more lasting wealth than sponsorship ever will. His Houston lifestyle operated at maximum visibility and maximum expense. Custom mansion in River Oaks, a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Bentley Continental, Ferrari 488, private jets for road trips, and legendary nightlife appearances that became part of his mythology. Annual spending during peak years probably hit $10 to $15 million, but that was sustainable against $50 million plus in yearly income. Total net worth likely falls between $250 and $300 million today, with future Adidas payments and equity appreciation potentially pushing him toward $400 million by retirement. He proved you can live extravagantly and still build lasting wealth, as long as income stays high enough and the investments behind the scenes are working harder than the lifestyle. But our number one entry took a completely different path. He earned less in salary, avoided the spotlight almost entirely, and ended up wealthier than everyone by doing something athletes almost never attempt: buying the city itself, one property at a time. Number 1. Hakeem Olajuwon arrived from Lagos, Nigeria in 1980, enrolled at the University of Houston, became the backbone of Phi Slama Jama, and went first overall to the Rockets in 1984, ahead of Michael Jordan, a fact that people constantly forget. 2 championships, league MVP, 2 finals MVPs, 12 all-star selections, 9 all-defensive team honors. He did not just play for Houston, he became the living, breathing identity of the franchise. And then he did something almost no athlete of his generation managed. He converted basketball earnings into something exponentially larger through patient, disciplined real estate investing. Hakeem collected approximately $110 million in career salary, enormous for the pre-max era, but modest by today's standards. Most 90s superstars retired comfortably, but did not achieve true wealth by modern measurements. Hakeem retired well off and then got significantly richer. During and after his career, he moved aggressively into Houston commercial real estate. Shopping centers, office buildings, undeveloped parcels purchased during expansion cycles when nobody else was paying attention, and multifamily residential developments positioned along growth corridors. He zeroed in on Southwest Houston and Sugarland, acquiring property when land was cheap and holding patiently through decades of explosive metropolitan growth. Former Rockets executives have described him as one of the most disciplined investor athletes in Texas history. Credible reports estimate that the majority of his current net worth, exceeding $200 million, came from real estate gains rather than basketball contracts. That is virtually unheard of for his generation. His endorsement approach was equally unconventional. He signed with Etonic instead of Nike when Nike controlled everything, a controversial decision that turned out to be strategically brilliant and reportedly very profitable. Global basketball clinics, international training camps spanning Africa and the Middle East, and local Houston brand relationships kept revenue flowing years after retirement. His lifestyle reflects quiet authority rather than spectacle. A substantial estate in Sugar Land with private training facilities, a known art collection, and discreet offices managing his property empire. No social media flexing, no nightclub circuits, no hunger for external validation. While his peers were collecting their 7th chain and their 3rd Bentley, Hakeem was acquiring Houston itself, acre by acre, building by building. He made $110 million on the court and transformed it into over $200 million through investments that appreciate while he sleeps. He is Houston's wealthiest basketball export, not because he out-earned everyone, but because he out-invested all of them. And those were the 8 richest Black NBA players connected to Houston. They range from cautionary tales about watching $245 million evaporate through unchecked spending, to legends who converted modest salaries into real estate empires. Leave a comment and share this video. Catch you next time.